I always wanted to learn something, and they always gave me those opportunities to learn in probably the best ways possible.
I will forever be indebted because they gave opportunity to be who they need to be.
No two students are the same.
We need to offer an education to every student that they can grab onto and be successful with.
Our culture is just one of service and love and meeting students where they are.
I like their flexibility and the chances that they give me.
Students differ in abilities and interests and motivation, and that's why school choice is so important.
It has the potential to really change South Carolina in terms of education.
I hope that we continue to grow and have the opportunity to serve more students.
We are the Heron Institute, and this is our choice story. Too often in our classrooms, there's a group of students for whom we treat as if it's the end of the story, that they are the result of a series of unfortunate events. And we treat them as if our story ends with the student getting expelled for bringing a handgun, that the story ends with a girl getting herself pregnant a sophomore year. The story ends with the student so behind on credits that he drops out for a dead-end job. So my call to action, my call to adventure is to treat these students as if this is an origin story. And if you're lucky enough and blessed enough to have the responsibility and the opportunity to work with students, that you do so with the same lens that you do when you read literature, when you're looking at these stories, that this is chapter 1. This is the beginning of what could be great. Here's a couple of examples from my own life. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Wrote. This is Mr. Shank's class. He's passing out the essays, which is how he normally did it. He would always have the essays folded in half so you didn't see the grade, you didn't see the red ink. I'm really nervous because I did a horrible essay. This was supposed to be the beginning of a research project. This is 1989 or 90. So a research project meant I needed to go to the local library and get books, which are like tablets, but one file on it, heavy. No Google, card catalog. And for whatever reason, I didn't get to the library. Something along the lines of the same reason I didn't get a ride to school. Dad's at work, mom's drinking, and I hated then as much as I do now asking or receiving any kind of help. So I'm really nervous because I love Mr. Shanks. He is my English teacher, and I hate letting him down. Mr. Crook, I hear him call. What happened? I usually really look forward to reading your work, not my essay, not the assignment, my work. He picks up a book, put the essay inside it. And he says, I want you to read this book. And when you're done with it, I want you to write another essay. I want you to write a couple of chapters. What happens next? And I want you to read this book because I think you're in it. So I was traditional public schools all my life, and at that point there really wasn't any school choice. It was really wherever you lived, whatever your zip code was, that's where you were going to school. During graduate school, I was working restaurants, so I was doing double shifts and going to graduate school. I kind of bartended, waited tables. I was a wine steward, kind of hospitality industry, putting myself through college after we got married. I very much had decided that I wanted to teach at the college level, be a professor, teach American literature, and kind of get tenure and retire. And I hadn't really thought about working with high school age students or lower until after Hurricane Katrina.
Louisiana, Hurricane Katrina continues to move west in the Gulf of Mexico.
And so once Katrina happened and the levees broke, we took on about 5.5 feet of water and lost everything except we had some bookshelves that were kind of floor to ceiling in this tiny little dormitory, and about 1,000 books were all we owned after Hurricane Katrina. And some of those are actually on the bookshelf still here. We kept those with us. When I started teaching inner city schools, saw a huge at-risk population that was being underserved because it was just whatever their community resources, that's what they had available to them. Where I was teaching, it was at the north side of Louisiana, and so it wasn't as impacted directly by Hurricane Katrina. And so where I was, it was an inner city school, very low resources. I literally didn't have enough textbooks for all my students. And at the same time, I was following what was going on in New Orleans. And that's when I started hearing about all these charter schools. The whole district went charter schools.
Ah, you got it!
After flooding wiped out most New Orleans schools, the state of Louisiana stepped in, taking over one of the worst performing school districts in the nation.
They created essentially an all-choice system because it was very hard to plan where people should send their kids into the traditional draw areas when 80% of the schools were flooded.
It was a huge boon for the students there because resources were being poured in to try to help fix the problem of education because they knew that was what was going to turn things around.
We've really put something in place that gives everyone a fair shot and shows that everyone's going to be served.
The northern part of the state, for a long time, virtual charter schools were the only other option that they had, and that's what kind of brought them along into the charter world and got my interest.
When Katrina hit, we suddenly had students that came up into the state. Really, these were normal people having a hard time and that basically had become transient by way of a natural disaster. I think for many of us, it was the curiosity of what this would be and what sort of future this would hold and trying to understand our place relative to this future, which would be online learning.
I was really intrigued by what you could do online. It was really starting to gain a lot of traction. And what I saw is that they were reaching into communities where there was no other school choice, where your zip code dictated your school. And they were able to get in there, send the kids a MiFi, a laptop, and have them plugged into a world-class curriculum with incredible teachers all over the state. And so Louisiana Virtual Charter Academy opened up and I was one of their founding teachers there. But every step of the way, I just got more interested in how I could expand my footprint, how I could kind of expand the options and push the envelope. And so I really just kind of stumbled into administration at that point.
When David and I first came to know one another, I was head of school at Arkansas Virtual Academy and I was helping with the launch in Louisiana. And so I had the chance to travel to, I think it was New Orleans, is where we were doing interviews. So David was trying to understand, what is it that is most impactful for me as a teacher within the classroom? What are the most important points of leverage that I should be using? And I just remember that conversation and his emphatic way, if you will, of working to really get to the bottom of that question. And I think that we see that in him today. The state of South Carolina puts its money where its mouth is in alternative education and in supporting students that meet certain criteria and certain need.
And what really piqued my interest was I kind of asked, what's going to be different about this school versus the existing schools that are already there? And initially there was going to be a focus on serving at-risk students. They wanted to look at blended learning models so that there's kind of a blend of in-person drop-in centers, those kind of things. So that was really interesting from the beginning because I'm constantly trying to see what else, what's next? If we're doing this now and it's serving these kind of kids, what kids are left out of that? And so Cyber Academy of South Carolina was really kind of planted the idea that we were going to expand and go deeper into the at-risk community from the beginning.
And it seemed that the board's vision for what this could mean here was spot on. And David's vision for that, but also the ability to execute on the plan from the board and with the board, it made a really exceptional alternative education choice that is saving kids.
And they incorporated as South Carolina Learns, and then they named their school Cyber Academy. And so when they first approached me about a virtual education, I thought, that's very interesting. That's one reason I decided to serve and to get involved. The mission and vision of SC Learns is to provide an individual virtual education to the students. Public school choice is extremely important.
All the children that were in charter schools chose to be there. Also, it was watching the struggle of charter schools starting. Back then, that was 2009, 2008, 2009, 2010. Charter school funding was low, So the charter schools that were starting up had to really struggle, so you knew from the very beginning these were folks that had a real interest in making a difference with children.
David knew so much, and I thought, if David could help us get through that first year with those students and the right teachers. You have to have the right teachers because the right teachers know what the children need.
We started with 500 kids at our peak year one and maybe a dozen or so teachers. So what we really focused on from the beginning was communication and relationships, and really the philosophy of what we do is to reach the students who need us, not necessarily the students who are going to be a good fit for virtual education. So we wanted to keep the doors open for those students, and that's challenging because those students, if you're an at-risk student, you bring a lot of other issues to the table, and so it's not going to be the easiest population to work with. But I think the challenge of the population is what makes it worth it. And so originally we were looking at growing enough so that we had enough funding and enough budget to provide the resources that we really wanted to move into.
And that was a bit unique. We had a virtual school. I think we'd only had one or maybe two virtual schools before then, but this was the first school that came to us with the mission of working with at-risk students. And I think the thing that I've been impressed with over the, 20 years or so that we've had charter schools now for at-risk students is how we've improved as educators. We now know that we really have to stay on top of students. We have to provide support and to make sure that they're staying on task as we move along in the school year.
But as we grew, David led us with integrity and empathy, and I think that has been the mission and heart of our organization. That's why we've grown so rapidly. That's why we're able to kind of duplicate our efforts, because all of our admin team, all of our staff, our culture is just one of service and love and meeting students where they are and helping them, whether they're on a track to college or a track to the opposite way, and we're trying to get them back on track to be productive citizens after they graduate high school.
Cyber Academy was pretty special from the beginning because all the way from the top, it was what can we do to make this a unique place for a student, and how can we connect them with something that makes their academic journey special and successful for them. And so we had the freedom to kind of make an individualized plan and approach for the student, and we were encouraged to take a creative lens when we're working with students one-on-one.
So when I started teaching at Cask and got to know the students, I thought, I don't know if I want to make this switch over because I love the relationships that I build with students, and how am I going to possibly do that virtually? It just seemed very hard and a difficult concept to me. But after doing it, I built stronger relationships with students because you're schooling them in their homes. I mean, they're inviting you in virtually, but to their lives, and you get to know them really, really well. And then we also offer different wraparound supports with the advisors. I think outings are very exciting. I know Cask, we offer them once a month around the state, and students get to go to the zoo, go to the aquarium, go to museums in the park, and we don't want them to miss a beat with having the normalcy of a schooling experience, and we're able to provide that for them at Cask.
And I think that we really look at each student and try to see what they desire to do after school, and then kind of push them to get where they want to be. So if the student wants to graduate early, have time in dual enrollment, then we push them that way. If the student really needs to have remediation of skills and academics or mental health or those wraparound services, we're able to provide that student kind of with individual skill remediation or any service I feel like that South Carolina offers. We kind of dig into to kind of help them to get what they need out of our school.
And we grew at about 10 to 20% per year right up until COVID hit.
This is breaking news from Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Several breaking developments tonight in the coronavirus outbreak.
The first, a major announcement from President Trump.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
COVID was disastrous for education. The learning loss that occurred while our schools were shut is by and large irretrievable over a person's lifetime. I remember Secretary DeVos and I took a trip from Washington here to South Carolina, and we visited charter schools that were open when the traditional public schools were closed. Parents began to figure out what was occurring in traditional classrooms across the country and what was not occurring in traditional classrooms across the country, because they could see in the distance learning mode what their children were and were not being asked to do. They could observe the teachers teaching, and they said, this is not working. It's not working for my child. We need to do something different.
What we saw with COVID is there were kids who were not necessarily ready to be online students, so our job was to teach them to be good online students, give them the study skills, the skills they're going to need in life beyond high school that help them to be a better student.
COVID brought an awareness to what could be done remotely that we didn't necessarily have. Not only in education, but in the workplace. It was, I think, enlightening on multiple fronts.
That really was the impetus that propelled the charter school movement across the country and the school choice movement across the country.
And at that time we doubled, kind of within 3 months. We went up to 5,000 kids, hired a ton of teachers, but I'm also happy to say that we didn't lose many of those students. The following year we shrunk a little bit, but a lot of those families came to virtual education because they had heard of it, and that kind of forced everyone to give it a shot. And so a lot of them just stuck around after that, and they're still with us.
So from there, as the high school grew, I became the principal for Cask High School and worked with them for 4 or 5 years in that position. We were able to, at that point, really work and focus on our graduation rate for our students, our college career readiness for our students, and see just a great increase not only in the success of our students and the diploma that they were able to earn, but also just the success rate of our report card and the school as a whole.
We were surprised when we found out that we were going to be parents.
Yep.
I was medically told I couldn't have children. I took a test. I passed the test, and that's how Ainsley's came.
She was very inquisitive on everything.
If she was quick to watch us, she would study and she would learn. So she was only about 2 when we were seeing her do these different things that we just wouldn't have expected a 2-year-old to do. And then she was always with a book in her hand, and she wanted to know more about everything. So it was always constantly, how do I do this? Asking the question, why, how?
And she would just always stand and stare, and when people were talking, she would just watch them talk. And then when she was able to talk, she didn't talk like a toddler would talk. She would try to have adult conversations with adults.
I always wanted to learn something, and they always gave me those opportunities to learn in probably the best ways possible. I get to carry with me, and I have all these cool facts because they always said, okay, you want to learn, then we go out and learn. I know I was probably a different child because I really didn't do normal child things, but they still made it as fun as I could have ever wanted.
As a parent, I wanted to make sure that we were going to follow the path that it was going to be best suited for her.
So I remember going in my first school, I went to brick and mortar, traditional, and I always wanted to do more.
I understand that there are limitations to certain things, but this is not our limitation as a parent. We eventually bumped into Cyber Academy, and they were gracious enough to hear me out. And when they did, we were able to test her. And we tested her properly, went through the motions, and the next thing I know, they were like, yep, we see what you see, so we're gonna let her go. And that was kind of the beginning of her journey with cyber.
I was very close with Ainsley. Ainsley's mom called me, and we were talking about where she was academically. She is a true gem. She is very wise beyond her years, and even was when she was in elementary school. Very, very bright. But the thing that was very interesting and exciting about Ainsley is she was advanced academically, but she was also advanced socially and emotionally, which you don't find very often. It's kind of usually one or the other. But she truly had it all.
For the first time, I had the teachers really accommodating to me. I was a different learner, and I wanted to learn fast and hands-on. And instead of saying, okay, maybe let's do this instead, they said, all right, then I'm going to find the best way for you to learn.
So Ainsley has been with Cyber Academy for 10 years. She has had teachers who care for her. They have gone above and beyond for her. They made sure that they helped me. They worked with me as a team.
And I really felt like it was a family. CASC has always been a family to me, especially teachers, administration. Everybody was there, and I felt heard, seen, and understood.
So Ainsley was able to be successful in elementary school because she was able to work through the curriculum at her own pace. And she did that and showed mastery every step of the way.
She needed to learn that there are times that you're gonna have to advocate for you and what your goals are. And so when she was in 6th grade, she set the goal that by 8th grade, I'll be in honors classes. And next thing you know, she's in 8th grade at 12 years old. She had honors English and honors math. And she says, I wanna graduate high school with my associate's degree. And I wanna do it by the time I'm 16. We had spent a lot of time learning time management because she started at Greenville Technical College her sophomore year. So watching her advocate for herself and learning how to speak to professors versus teachers versus the administrators, it has been such an evolution from this little teeny tiny Ainsley to the Ainsley that we know now.
And it's not even just that, it's the fact that she was able to learn at her own pace, how she wanted to, how she needed to.
So Cyber Academy has done a wonderful job of giving numerous opportunities.
I started in beta, and I think I was in 5th grade when I was first introduced, and I absolutely loved doing the service hours. It was probably one of my favorite things.
So she's been involved with the National Beta Club, the National Honor Society, Student Council, which was something that she helped to create.
I wanted, as an overall education nationwide, is that all students to feel that comfort, that ability to learn, and they want to go to school. That's something I also hear, is that they enjoy learning, and I want to feel that. I want to hear that from all kinds of students as well.
Here at the Charter Institute, we started the Ambassador Program all the way back in 2019 because we wanted to create some sort of program where we could highlight our students and also aid them in their personal and professional growth. In that time, we've had several cohorts come through the Charter School Ambassador Program, and we've even been lucky enough to have a couple of our alumni come back and visit us. So that's been really special, and we've been going ever since. To be selected as a Charter School Ambassador here at the Institute, we first turn to the schools because we know that the leaders within our buildings are the ones who are best equipped to recognize and nominate students for the Ambassador Program. We then review those applications and bring the semifinalists to the Institute where they complete a presentation and also answer questions from our panel of judges about, what school choice means to them, the experiences and the benefits that they've seen from attending a charter school, and just why they want to represent charter schools on the state and even national level.
So my mom got the call from my advisor, and she said, I found this, I got this email, I think Ainsley would be perfect for it. And I was in 8th grade at the time, and I was like, I don't think I'm such a great fit for this. I've never really done speaking or things like that. I've only ever advocated for myself. And I was really kind of, doubtful of how well I would do at the ambassadorship.
When we first met Ainsley, she was so small that she could hardly even see over the podium. I mean, she was on her tippy toes just trying to reach the microphone. But we were instantly so impressed by her poise and her grace, and we just knew that she had to be part of our initial cohort of charter school ambassadors. And we've just been so blessed to watch her grow over the years.
Well, when I began, I was in public school, and I didn't really have the freedom that I needed to grow my academic sense. But thankfully, I had school choice, and I went into charter school, which gave me an opportunity to learn at a rapid rate, which gave me and helped me where I am now.
It was a great opportunity for her not only to represent the district, but to represent Cyber Academy, a virtual online charter school.
And then I just found this passion that I love seeing these students so happy that they could do this. And I said, okay, I want to go this on a bigger scale. And I asked to go, and I said, I really want to go to Senate, and showed them that this is really something I hope that they could continue to do, because this is something that's been done for me. And I kind of switched the mindset from me to, I want this for every student.
Working in the charter school sector, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people don't fully understand what a charter school means, and more specifically, what a charter school means in South Carolina. And so that was one of the goals of the program, was to provide a face and a name and show the experiences of those who actually benefited from the charter school system. And that's especially true even in the virtual setting. And I think Ainsley has really shed light on the perspective and the experience of a virtual student through the Ambassador program.
So 5 years ago, when I stood up here for the first time, virtual charter school was a 4-letter word. They were maligned. They were certainly struggling in some areas. But working with the Institute, we made it a priority to bring virtual education to excellence. And so we partnered with these schools, and I'm happy to report that for our virtual schools, since they joined the Charter Institute at Erskine, they're outperforming the state now academically. And then to put a human face on it, I want to introduce to you Ainsley Crow. Ainsley is a student at Cyber Academy of South Carolina. She's 13 years old. She's taking sophomore classes. Needless to say, I was not there when I was 13 years old. She's on track to graduate at 16 with both an associate's degree and a South Carolina high school diploma.
And Ainsley has really exemplified that through all of her different experiences. She has gone to the legislature numerous times and testified about her virtual experience. She's spoken with other students, she's spoken with teachers, even our state superintendent of education, Ellen Weaver, and talked about what it means to be a charter school student in the virtual setting.
Our ambassadors represent tens of thousands of charter school students by highlighting the incredible impact school choice is having on the coming generation of South Carolinians. To make an impact, we need strong leaders who are resolute, educated, and confident.
From the beginning, she was never that shy kid that we needed to kind of bring out. She was ready to tell her story and create her story. So really a lot of it was us getting out of her way, but also putting things in her way. So she's able to do dual enrollment, get college credit.
So Cyber Academy tends to have more of our students who are highly engaged. They want those dual enrollments. And so we've been able to reach out to other districts, reach out to colleges to kind of find those paths that are able to accelerate them quickly, to meet those goals.
CASP is so important for her to be able to make the strides that she's made in the time that she has made it. She took high school level courses in middle school, and then we offered dual enrollment in high school, so she was able to take courses at a college, so when she graduates, she will have her associate's degree, and yes, graduating at 15.
I've had the privilege of advocating on behalf of school choice for over 4 years. Advocacy became a passion for me when I realized that many students like myself and my family needed to know it was okay to have a voice. I was given a chance to become that voice when I became a student ambassador at the Charter Institute at Erskine, joining a movement to share with the nation why we as a society need school choice. I chose to move ahead when I needed to and pursue all the goals my younger self dreamed of, even some she never imagined possible. Those goals included taking honors classes in 8th grade, beginning college classes at 13, and graduating at 16 with both a high school diploma and an associate's degree. But my favorite goal will forever be a seemingly childlike good dream, to be in a history book. I remember reading about extraordinary people who changed the world by advocating for what they believed in. That inspired me, and I realized I wanted to help as many people as I could, starting with education, the root of all we do. Soon, I will transform from a mighty Heron to a brave Valkyrie at Converse University. With another year of wisdom under my belt, I look forward to the opportunities and challenges this new chapter will bring. You have the power to choose. Choose to encourage others. Choose to be a source of inspiration, and choose to boldly pursue the childlike dreams that hold a special place in your heart. The future is shaped by the choices we make, so choose excellence. Thank you.
We have certainly watched Ainsley grow up physically over the years, but we have also watched her grow into an amazing leader and an amazing young woman. She's even more confident than she was when she walked into our office several years ago. I mean, she can speak to anyone. She can talk to someone in the grocery store. She can talk to a legislator because she knows who she is and knows what she values. She is humble, she is personable, and she is a true servant leader.
She went to sit with K-12 Stride CEO and presented directly to him about her experience, about what she thought was working, about things that she thought could improve. I think having that forum, having that stage, as I guess that was 2 years ago, as a younger student, was a special opportunity that this provided her that I don't think she might have had otherwise.
We really got to open up the state to her, and so she started being ambassador with Charter Institute at Erskine. She's visited the governor's mansion. I think she's been to see the state superintendent more times than I have. She's all over the place, and a lot of that is because we're a statewide school and we've got an authorizer that believes in bringing those resources into our students. And so she's just really thriving, and I can't wait to see what she does after graduation.
After I go to high school, I want to go and finish and get my bachelor's degree at Converse University, and I also want to study abroad and learn different things. I also want to try out for the debate team so I can continue kind of advocating for education on a wider scale. And once I'm done with that and I get certifications in teaching, I want to continue and go out and teach part-time for a little while and maybe try out going and being a senator or a lawyer. And not only so I get to have that in-person time with teaching, but I also get to go and advocate for it through what I've learned. And then overall, I hope to achieve my goal of becoming the state superintendent by the time I'm at least 30.
What charter schools have done in South Carolina is it has really disrupted some of the old traditional thinking. For instance, it used to be that high schools would not let students graduate under 4 years. And they would not let them take advanced courses if they were not part of the campus project. Virtual schools has opened up a whole new world. Kids who are looking for a chance to graduate early can graduate in 3 years. They can take all sorts of courses right now. So that's been a huge change in the way we have viewed education right now. I've always had an interest in academically gifted students, and now I'm seeing virtual school students get scholarships to Harvard, universities all over the United States right now.
But we still wanted to get back to our original goal of serving at-risk children.
We grew up here, and then we moved to Easley. We honestly, me and my siblings, we fight and argue and everything else, but at the end of the day, we get along. My relationship with my mom's kind of it's a bit rocky. My dad, in and out.
Single parenting is hard. You have to be the mother and the father.
My sister and my brother, we've always lived together. I was a troubled child, I guess you could say.
She didn't get along well with, it was always bullying. The school was challenging within itself. You have some good teachers and you have not so good teachers. Some of them don't want to take the time out and help you, and sometimes she needed that extra push.
I was going Geddes Middle School in Easley. This girl kept messing with me, kept getting into physical altercations, and they ended up kicking me out. Going to brick and mortar school was a big factor for me being a troubled teen. Yeah, I just wish I would have just slowed down and listened a little better. Honestly, these past couple of months have been pretty crazy for me. We kind of lost our home a few months ago. Well, a year ago, actually. So we've been having to up and go and stay with other people. Well, first we were in Anderson, and something with the lady that we were staying with just didn't work out. So we came down here before my grandma passed. And this is a pretty stable place for us. We're just living here. I was able to kind of catch up on some schoolwork. But then my grandma got COVID and she passed December 12th, I think. Since she passed, we're having to find somewhere else to go. It's been hard to kind of keep up with school. I think Heron's been able to work with me, accommodate our life with school, I guess you could say.
I think from the beginning, Cyber Academy has been built on making sure that we were not minimizing access to the students that needed us most. So from day one, we've had one of the highest percentage of special education students in the state, a high percentage of students in poverty, a high percentage of students who they're called McKinney-Vento status, so they're either homeless or transient or just non-permanent housing. We were serving a lot of those students, but we also had some incredibly gifted, some high flyers who it really turned into, we were almost operating two programs in one. We had kind of a traditional preparatory magnet program almost for gifted, talented students. At the same time, we were serving just a high-risk population that needed dedicated resources. And that kind of morphed over time of our relationship with Charter Institute at Erskine. From the very beginning, we talked about what it would look like to have a statewide virtual alternative education campus. And that's where Heron Academy came about.
So as the conversations began, we began to hear from multiple schools. Yes, if we could have a place to serve these students, we really could support them and help them be successful. And so I think there were many years of just kind of talking about who those students are and what would be needed to support them.
I think the goal was just to see cyber grow. We didn't have enrollment caps, but then we just saw such a need of students that were coming to us with DJJ, credit deficient, mental health, haven't been in school, they've been expelled. So we had such a large portion of those students wanting to get in, and cyber had enrollment guidelines that we couldn't let all of those students in. So we saw such a need, and the brick and mortar schools and districts are really struggling to kind of meet that need in their own districts. So we saw that we couldn't take those students, but someone needed to help them.
The way that students are added to my caseload is if they're automatically there, if it's a known pregnancy or parenting situation, if they're coming with any type of criminal arrest with DJJ or the adult system, or an expulsion from their prior school or the McKinney-Vento cases. Other than that, teachers can send me cases if they're concerned about a student. If something comes up in class, some of the mandated reporter stuff, they're added over to my caseload. And then we also have a school-based mental health counseling partnership where I can connect them with virtual mental health services as well. Like a group of students that didn't quite qualify, the ones with high absences or the expulsions that made them not eligible for Cyber Academy. But the really neat thing is all of the administration team had noticed that too. And we're already asking questions like, how can we support them? How can we build a program that also serves them? Because if a student wants to get an education and wants a chance at our school, we wanted to find a way that we could give that to them.
So it was very important to us from an ethical standpoint to make sure we were showing the improvement, that we had a solid academic program in our high school before we started really putting pen to paper on what Heron Virtual Academy was. Because from the very beginning, I wanted to make sure that no one could look at this and say we opened an at-risk school and that's why our scores went up, that we're just kind of moving kids over and it's a shell game. Kids can't automatically just transfer. If you're at risk at cyber and you're being served, you stay there. Some of those kids are given an option if there are programs that really support them here. But that was really from the beginning. We wanted to make sure we were doing it the right way so that this didn't look like an escape hatch. And really from almost day one with the Charter Institute, we started talking about what it could look like and what it should look like. And then a couple of years later, we really kind of started doing some serious planning sessions about what it could be and what it turned into.
Literally 100% of the people in this room seated for dinner tonight have had influence on what we've become. And part of that is the belief in what's possible for us to become. And that's what I really cherish. Students need to have an opportunity to choose a school that believes in what they can do, to believe in the possibility.
This is going to give them a real path towards vocational certifications and a high school diploma and change family trees.
We're very excited about opening this new avenue to reach into our most needy populations in the state of South Carolina, students who may be behind 2 or 3 years in credits, and we don't want to lose those kids. It's very valuable for the state of South Carolina and for those individual students to get them to a place where they can graduate and become productive citizens of South Carolina.
And I think Heron Academy is going to have the opportunity to change the face of virtual education and charters nationwide. And the team that we have that are working on this, we want to do it the right way, and we're going to help kids that are not being helped, that are being pushed away. And I think we've got the capacity and the intent and the philosophy and the people involved in this room to literally change the face of what virtual education can do for the ones that are being pushed aside and left behind.
So Alicia was a student at Cyber Academy High School, I believe last year, and her sister, her older sister Alexis, was enrolled at Heron Academy. Her sister was actually a part of our first graduating class for Heron Academy. And so I believe that Alicia saw the support, the relationship building, the opportunity to connect not only with teachers but peers in a way that was unique and really met her sister's needs. And so she decided to enroll with Heron Academy in year 2. She really enjoys the flexibility that Heron Academy allows for her, but also just this is an opportunity for her to get the support she needs and still achieve the goal of a high school diploma.
When I first found out I was pregnant, it felt like unreal. Like, I couldn't believe it for the longest. I didn't think I was going to be able to continue with the goals that I had set in place, which I now know I still can. It's just going to take me a little bit more time to get there and a little bit more effort than if I wasn't with child.
Alicia really needed compassion and patience, and someone that if she was slipping or falling behind, that wouldn't stop supporting her, that would show up even stronger if she started to fall behind, and stay there with her and stay in the classrooms with her and just make sure that she knew we weren't giving up on her. And when she has that level of support, she really shines. She's an outstanding student, and we're proud to have her. There's so much support systems for our students that are expecting or already have children. And some of those are the Flex program, which offers even more flexibility in their day-to-day academic schedule, but also the partnership with our virtual mental health counseling partnership. That can work wonders for the new parents. And just taking the time to meet with them one-on-one, making sure they have all their resources met, and knowing that, you know, we're not going to leave them behind. We're going to extend due dates. We're going to basically move any mountains out of their way and make it possible for them to succeed with us.
It was pretty scary. I thought I wouldn't make it through my first trimester because of how hard the sickness was and not having a stable place. But I can believe it now, and I'm more happy about it now because I have a stable place.
I walk kind of funny now because she's head down, so it's just like a lot of pressure right here.
So she's 5 pounds, possibly a little bit more. She looks exactly like me. She should be here by the end of March.
So our first graduating banquet, we had a dozen or so kids who graduated mid-year, and about half of those students could not attend a physical brick and mortar school. There were health and safety concerns, there was guns brought to school, other safety issues where they just physically were not allowed to be around other students. And I respect that as a parent. You've got to keep the health and safety of everyone in mind. And so what we've really seen with Heron Academy is we're able to offer an option for those students who it was the end of the road for education. They couldn't even go to their alternative school because of the health and safety issues. And a couple of them graduated early.
I would like to introduce you to one of the first students that I had the privilege of working with in my role with Heron Academy. Please help me welcome Khalil Thorne.
I'm a student here at Heron Academy, and I was brought here today to share my story, hoping to inspire somebody. I was a student at Blythewood, and I got into a situation where I had to defend myself from 2 to 3 students, which I handled the completely wrong way. I felt like I had to bring a weapon on the school grounds to feel safe, having to face the consequences for my actions. I had nothing but time, just time to think, until me and my mother stumbled across Heron Academy. that helps students like me get back on track. Heron Academy has classes and programs that help me go from a D averaging student to the A B honor roll, proving that if a student like me spiraling down the wrong way could flip his life around and change, other students can too. Thank you all for coming today, and have a blessed evening.
Our job is to offer support to get them out of that situation so that that one really bad decision doesn't have lifelong repercussions and just closed doors. From the very beginning, we chose the Heron as our mascot, and that just kind of evolved into our identity. I would send emails out to our, when we first started, 500 kids, and I'd say, Mighty Herons, this is what we're up to. All the herons are coming to test. I would talk about how a group of herons is a siege of herons, and so it just became kind of part of our identity, and all of our shirts and everything had herons on it. So as we look to evolve and look at our next campus, which became Heron Virtual Academy, it was just an obvious kind of transition to keep it in the family that we had already grown, but with its separate identity. And then after that, we launched the Heron Foundation, which is focusing on fundraising and grant writing. And so all of that really just kind of evolved to the point where we were no longer an entity just operating a school, that it really was just an enterprise. And so that's why we kind of looked at the branding of the organization to the Heron Institute to kind of oversee everything we're doing. We've got the Heron Academy, we've got the Heron Foundation, Cyber Academy Herons, all under the umbrella of the Heron Institute. I love the idea of origami, of taking something that's just plain every day that everyone has in their house, just a sheet of paper, and just the intricate things that that could become. And that kind of became a metaphor for what we were trying to do, to take whatever was laying around there, kind of the everyday items, turning it into something amazing. So I just like the process of taking something that doesn't seem to have a lot of potential and turning it into something that's just not expected. What we're really interested into is we've seen a couple of group homes. There's a boys' home that we're talking to right now about essentially being a micro school for them on campus. So all of their students who are there at that time, the one we're looking at right now is 15 to 20 students at any given time, kindergarten through 12th grade. And so this would affect both campuses. And we're going to try to be their school choice for their campus.
Boys Farm is it's a residential home for boys who are undergoing difficult family situations. The typical example of a child that comes to live with us is a young man between the ages of 9 and 13 who's been struggling at home with grades, struggling at home respecting his guardian, and about 80% of the children we serve come from homes with single mother or single grandmothers. And so this young man's growing up, maturing, he starts feeling that he doesn't have to respect authority. And with that, he starts getting into the wrong kind of crowds. And so our focus really is to kind of work in prevention, get these boys before they've gotten into a really bad situation that leads them to DJJ or something like that. But when he's put into our situation where we have a married couple providing daily structure, times, and schedules, they quickly are able to turn around. So one of the important parts of a child's life at Boys Farm is, besides providing that daily structure in the house, we have very structured activities. Twice a week, the boys get an opportunity to work on campus. They cut grass, they trim bushes, they learn how to paint, they get small skills like that. But also, we have a lot of ball fields, so a couple times a week we'll either have an organized sports where everybody on campus plays, whether it's softball, kickball, sometimes dodgeball or basketball. And a lot of the house parents individually will use the facilities just to do something with their children. One of the things that we're going to create here in the next few months is an equestrian center where we'll have riding lessons and also equine therapy as part of the program. So we found out over the past year, one of the things that we were struggling with was the negative influences that our kids were receiving from public schools. Teachers were fantastic, but just the influences from outside were difficult for us to deal with on a day-to-day. And so we chose to go with CASC because we felt the smaller classroom sizes, the individualized attention, and all the tools that they provide for us make a big difference in the lives of the boys. We're able to sit down with them one-on-one in cases where they need to, and structure it such that they get the individual attention that they need and they're not being harassed by outside influences.
And that's huge for those students because if you're in foster care or the temporary housing, you move from one foster house to another, you change schools. And so the records we get from some of those students, we've got 4, 5, 6 school records that we've got to piece together and try to get a graduation plan. With this situation, we can put some laptops there, we can put resources and books there so they've got kind of a classroom model that they can build on, still access our school, but then if they go to another foster environment, the school can follow them. We can follow them anywhere they're in the state.
Obviously, every child's educational experience is a little different. I have 4 biological children of my own, and they all learn differently. And what we really like about the Cyber Academy is that they're able to kind of tailor for each individual child. They're able to spend more time with each child, meeting their needs, whether it's in mathematics, whether ELA or science, and it just gives our kids a greater chance of success. We've already seen a big change in primarily the middle school kids and some of the high school kids. They're all getting A's and B's. I feel it's a credit to the tailored school that we have, but also the individualized attention that they're getting.
And so we're really trying to give some educational continuities for those students so that they can do things like dual enrollment and other things that just wouldn't be possible with the situation that they're living in. And what we want to do is establish that relationship as kind of a pilot to see what works and doesn't work, and then reach out across the state and see where are there other group homes or foster situations where we can set up these micro schools on their campuses or on their facilities and be that solution for the students. As part of our vision, the Heron Institute's Board of Directors recently approved a significant investment in the establishment of community resource centers across the state. These centers are going to provide academic support, career training, social services, and community engagement opportunities for students and families. Our flagship 9,000 square foot center is going to launch in Greenville, South Carolina, with future locations planned for Columbia, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and beyond. All right, so this is going to be the entryway, and so we'll have someone in reception here, secure waiting room. This is going to be kind of locked down so students can't just go in and out. Right. So we're going to be able to kind of watch them as they come in. And what's great is this used to be, this was all used for testing in the past, so it's really set up for an academic environment in mind. And over here is where our on-site learning coaches are going to work from as kind of their office space to get ready for the day. And that'll be here and probably this room too for instructor prep and to hold materials and just kind of lesson planning and getting their day ready, or meeting one-on-one small group with if they've got kind of a student they want to work with. And then what's great is we've got just a row of actual classroom-sized buildings already kind of marked out. And so we've got 4 classrooms in a row. So we're going to have K-5 kiddos right here, all the windows nice and bright for them to have their little safe area. And that's by design. So as we're thinking about like the high school kids going to the back, these K-5 kids will just be able to come right down this hall, right to their classroom. And then back here, we've got essentially what's going to be like a full kitchen. And so this is going to feed into what this area will be. We'll have a food pantry for families that need it, or just snacks for themselves. I want kids to come in and there's just a dry good pantry for them to come in and make themselves at home and take resources.
Do you think there's a space for like washing machine, dryer? And where do you see like mental health counselor's room? Like we'll need like a
yeah, that's some of the side rooms over there.
Smaller.
There's going to be little, just little meeting rooms that can be kind of reserved for one-on-one. So we could do psychological testing or just kind of one-on-one conferencing, working with a student who needs to kind of be pulled aside and get some of that face-to-face. I think what we're seeing is a lot of our students can do 100% blended, and we've done a great job of reaching them. But this is going to cross over into that world where we need some face-to-face time with them, where we need to get them some physical resources. We're going to have books all over the place for kids just to come in and check out resources in their community. Really, I look at this as being kind of a community center for any of the kids that are attending either of our campuses in the area. So Jennifer, as we're looking at the space, you've been in charge of all the student services that are kind of anything outside the classroom that the students needs. The advisor support, the support to get kids back on track, the special needs kids, McKinney-Vento homeless kids. Where do you see this kind of blended physical space fitting in with what you're doing? What kind of programming would you like to see located at one of these centers?
Yeah, so we definitely have students that are at risk, but also we're a Title I school. We just have students who need all of the wraparound services to meet their needs. You know, of course, academics are important, but we want to see wraparound services meet their physical, emotional, mental health needs. And being here, sometimes students just need to get away from their environment. Sometimes they just need food. Sometimes they need a place to wash their clothes, to see a mental health counselor. And so we want to see this environment to where they can come and get anything that they need to reach their academic needs, but also their full potential to be functioning members of the community. So we want to provide our students not just academic resources, but to make sure that they're ready for the real world and to learn that they're important, they matter, and that we're here to help them in no matter what way that can be, not just academically, but food, mental health. All of those things are so important for the whole child, not just. Yes, they can get those resources in brick and mortar, but sometimes just being in that brick and mortar causes anxiety, or there's other extenuating circumstances where just being in that environment is not the best fit for them. So if we can kind of bridge that gap and offer all of that in one spot throughout the state, I certainly think that we can provide them a virtual education, but also meet the resources they need to thrive.
What I really loved about when we went and visited some other blended learning sites around the country was when students said those drop-in centers were a safe place and they didn't feel safe at their local school. And so this bridges the gap. That's my goal here, to create just kind of a multifunctional, whatever space the students need to thrive, this can kind of adapt to what they need.
Every year here at the Charter Institute, we host our annual awards banquet in the spring, and that's where we bring together our students, teachers, and volunteers of the year from our schools statewide to celebrate all the hard work that they've done over the past year. So you can imagine that our 5th annual awards banquet was going to be a pretty big deal. We had about 500 charter school students and leaders from all over the state coming together to celebrate 5 years of the Institute. And at that 5-year celebration, we gave out several special awards, one of which being our State Advocate of the Year award.
Next, we'll celebrate another form of volunteer, the State Advocate of the Year.
The Institute gives this award annually to someone who stands up for the charter school movement.
Our first winner is someone that I have had the pleasure of working closely with for several years. She has become a regular at the State House and has spent countless hours advocating on behalf of school choice. She commands any room that she enters and is never afraid to strike up a conversation with someone, no matter how intimidating they may seem. She is a lifelong learner and takes on every project, initiative, or opportunity with a smile. I am so honored to present our first 2023 Advocate of the Year award to Miss Ainsley Crow. Ainsley was one of the first charter school ambassadors to be nominated in 2020 and has been an integral part of the program ever since. We thank her for her advocacy on behalf of the Institute and virtual education.
We meet lots of parents in this role that we fulfill across the state of South Carolina, and all those parents have one thing in common. They care deeply about their children, as they should. They care about their children's education. They care about their children's future, and that's why they've chosen a charter school for their mode of education. But every once in a while, you meet somebody really, really special that cares not only about their children and deeply about their children, but they're willing to give of themselves to other children across the state of South Carolina who aren't theirs, who is there when you pick up the phone and you call and say, hey, you're needed, we need you to come to the State House to speak on behalf of students across the state or behalf of charter schools across the state. We need you to do this, we need you to do that. And that person is always there and willing to give selflessly for all the children in the state of South Carolina. So it is my pleasure to announce that the second winner of this prestigious award this year is Miss Jessica Crow.
Next thing I know, I'm walking up there on stage with my daughter, who happens to be my hero. And I was so proud. But the biggest thing is that as a parent, I did not realize how much my voice mattered in what happens with my child and her education.
And that's what the State Advocate of the Year award is really all about. It's those people who aren't afraid to stand up and challenge the status quo, to say, no, this is me, this is who I am, and this is what school choice really means. And it's so important, not only here in South Carolina, but also all across the country.
Andrea was born 3 weeks early. She was born 3 weeks early and her weight was 5 pounds, 5 ounces. So that morning, I went into labor at 5 a.m. that morning. I went up to the hospital at, I think it was maybe like 11 or 12. And I was 3 centimeters dilated and they sent me back home. And then I went back around 7 and that's when I was 8 centimeters dilated and I had her at 11:28. This is the best thing ever. Well, I knew I loved her, but it's so different. It's such a different type of love that I have for her. She's smelling. I'm gonna stay home with her until I can finish school, which if things are still on track, then I'll finish in December. I think I need to make it happen like even more. I'm gonna make it my mission to let her have a better life. I made it, like, even with having a child, I still was able to graduate and do whatever I wanted to do after graduation. Even though these past couple of years have been rough, I still was able to do it, and with the baby on my hip.
So Heron's first graduation was last year.
It's an honor to stand before you and recognize the incredible achievements of these remarkable students who have overcome challenges and demonstrated exceptional perseverance.
When you think about the sacrifice, the dedication, and the hundreds of hours of hard work to get to this moment, take these feelings into consideration for everything that will come before you from this day forward. Never forget the people that helped you when you were in the greatest need. These people are your champions. And today, you not only have a champion, you are a champion.
That was extra special because I got to see several mothers and fathers walk the stage with their little one, but also it was the first time we had students with prior expulsions that weren't eligible to go back in their local district, that they chose to come to us. And so many of them stopped us in the hallway and hugged us and thanked us for just believing in them, not giving up on them, and giving them that extra chance.
Graduation is not just a ceremony, it is a milestone and a testament to the hard work, dedication, and perseverance of our graduates and all of you who have supported them throughout this journey. May your hearts be filled with the courage to chase your dreams, the wisdom to navigate life's challenges, and a deep belief in your ability to make a difference. Congratulations to each of you.
But the ones that get me are the ones that I know their personal stories, because I can't know the story of 5,000 students, but the ones that I know about and then I know their background. I know what they have overcome. And then to see them walk across the stage and to see their family, sometimes it's the first family member in their family to graduate, but to see that is an incredible feeling. And to know that I had maybe some small piece, gives me great joy, but also it's incredibly touching to see.
It's hard to imagine there was a time where Heron Academy wasn't here for students, because it is so vitally needed for some of our students, especially ones that are struggling to find a place that will allow them to enroll and not qualifying other places. And if they want a chance, we will always say yes, open that door and pull up a seat for them at our school. And so I can't wait to see this program continue to grow, but I really hope even bigger that it becomes something that every state offers something like this to their students in need.
It's incumbent upon the parents in the charter schools and the authorizers like Erskine Institute to make sure that our charter schools maintain the quality that they promise parents and students. Students differ in abilities and interests and motivation, and that's why school choice is so important. So I'm an advocate for all forms of school choice. And the way I phrase it is that we need to be able to fund the education of school students, not the operation of school systems.
School choice has never been
a bigger need than it is now. And to see the different options that students and families get to choose from now it's incredible.
The future of education in South Carolina, I think charters are definitely going to play a big part of what that is. My hope is that that's going to influence the traditional brick and mortar models as well. I don't think there's going to be 100% online or 100% virtual. I think it's going to blend together. And I think the programming that we're able to kind of push the envelope on, being a charter school and kind of explore areas that aren't there, is going to help that a lot.
I think it's important to note really the heart of the people that are involved, from the board to David's leadership to the administrative team overall, but just really, really special people with the right thing at heart for kids. I think that they sharpen what online learning is in the United States of America.
One of the things, thinking back over retirement, is watching what has happened in the evolution of charter schools in South Carolina. When I became superintendent of the charter school district, we had 3 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. We were underfunded to the level that we were virtually broke that first year I was superintendent. So we've watched it evolve into a number of very successful charter schools. Some of the top academic schools in the state now are charter schools, and I've watched virtual schools go from a real issue with academic performance to now one where we're getting students getting scholarships everywhere.
School choice is really crucially important, I think, because no 2 students are the same. The school choice, it's just such a gift to have that freedom and ability to choose what you need for each of your children.
I really believe in school choice. I'm really proud to be a part of the school choice community. I really hope to see that movement grow because I think whether a student needs to be in a virtual setting for whatever their life circumstances are, or if they need to be in a brick and mortar, or whatever the focus is that they and their family feel will help them see the success they need to see. I believe that is the right thing to do.
I think school choice matters because not all students are the same. Both of my boys, for the most part, went through brick and mortar traditional schooling, but both of them attended one of my schools at one point in time. One during COVID and one just because middle school, it was just a better fit for what he needed. He ended up graduating traditional brick and mortar high school, but I think the resilience and the determination that he learned when he was with us in middle school helped him get there. And so I think it's an option that, it's an important option for the students who need it at that given time.
The story begins with a student expelled for a handgun that finds a program that helps him take responsibility. The story begins with a student who doesn't have to choose between having a baby and graduating, that she will one day walk across the stage with a newborn. So again, I'm not asking anyone who's got the blessing to work with students to decide if you want to be in the story. I'm asking you to understand you are in the story. And you can be one of the other nameless teachers that I literally can't remember, or you could be Mr. Shanks, who literally altered the timeline. And so that eventually that hint of a shred of self-confidence is what led me to see the classroom as holy ground where origin stories happen, because each and every one of those students is a chapter 1.
you.